Hello everyone and welcome to my Bachelor Nation official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and gives this video a thumbs up. I no longer believe it to be the winner of the Golden Bachelorette. Season 1 lead Joan Vassos isn't spending enough time with her family, which is Chock Chapple's fault. Joan, the 62-year-old school administrator, fell in love with Chock after he defeated 23 other golden men. He was given his first date with Joan, who took him to Disneyland for the day before they had a private supper where they became more acquainted. Throughout the entire season, Joan became deeply in love with Chock, and she was devastated when he had to leave the experience due to the death of his mother while filming. But a few days later, Chock came back and kept courting Joan. Joan took Pascal Ibgui, Guy Gansert, and Chock on their last dates in Tahiti. Joan told Guy she loved Chock after Pascal had removed himself. During the final rose ceremony, Chock proposed to Joan, and the two have been making public appearances as an engaged couple ever since. Many people have blamed Chock for Joan's prolonged absences from her family during their newly engaged life, but I no longer believe that he is to blame. While pursuing Joan, Bachelor Nation's Chock did not garner many golden fans. Chock was a combative competitor who showed off his desire in Joan at every opportunity, upsetting the other competitors with his seeming smothering of Joan. Chock kept his arm around Joan the majority of the time during a group bowling date, preventing the other guys from approaching her. Pascal referred to Chock as a stalker after the show because of his actions on that date and during the competition. But I believe Chock simply was adamant about wanting to be with Joan. He displayed his affection in ways that Joan found more appealing than the others, and I can't blame him for that. Since he gained Joan's affection, Chock's plan worked, and I don't think he had any ill will against the other guys. I can see how his behavior cost him supporters and damaged his reputation. In addition, Chock never married his second fiancée of 9 years after divorcing his first, which I knew was a warning sign. Although I can understand how fans could believe that Chock's past relationships make him appear flighty, I believe that the criticism of him is unjustified because it did ultimately bring him to Joan. Before beginning her journey on the Golden Bachelorette, Joan made it clear that she would always prioritize her family and that she had no intention of moving away from them. But that's exactly what Joan is doing. Chock and Joan disclosed their intentions to develop their relationship between Chock's birthplace Kansas and Joan's native Maryland, with the goal of securing a shared residence in New York City. Although many fans believe that Chock is forcing Joan to abandon her family, I don't think that's how things are going. I acknowledge that Joan has been making sacrifices in order to be with Chock, but she has the right to do so. I envision her taking the initiative to make her relationship work, even if it means spending less time with her loved ones, now that she has finally found love in her sunset years. Chock can't be the only one getting flack for putting their family last for the time being, in my opinion, because they are making just as much sacrifice. Recently, Joan and Chock traveled to Cancun, Mexico, where they had a great time without their families. I don't think Chock is the main motivator in that story, and I'm positive they need that time to grow as a couple. Given his behavior on the Golden Bachelorette, I used to believe Chock was intrusive and might have been trying to distance himself from Joan after the program, but now I view Joan as the driving force behind the development of her romance with Chock. I simply believe that this is how their early connection is developing, not that Chock is pushing Joan to spend more time with him and less time with her family. They haven't had enough time, in my opinion, to figure out their engaged lives with both of their families involved. Only time will tell if they can handle that element more effectively. I've seen Joan and Chock in interviews and on Instagram, and it seems like Chock is trying his hardest to help Joan through their merged life. He isn't receiving enough credit for his sincere love and respect for Joan, how they are resolving their relationship issues, or his attempt to include both of their families. I believe that he is misunderstood because of his stint on the Golden Bachelorette. Time will, in my opinion, prove Chock right, and he and Joan will be able to better integrate their families and manage their schedules. The Golden Bachelorette journey was never going to be simple, but it became even more complicated when Joan Vassos and Chock Chapple chose love over comfort, tradition, and expectations. Joan had always been clear about her priorities. Family came first. Before embarking on her reality TV journey, she emphasized that her children and grandchildren were the most important people in her life. She even left the Golden Bachelor for her family's needs before returning as the lead of the Golden Bachelorette. Yet, in the wake of her engagement to Chock, it seemed her commitment to family was being challenged in unexpected ways. Many fans quickly pointed fingers at Chock, labeling him as controlling, possessive, and unwilling to compromise. But those accusations didn't quite align with the reality of their relationship. The more I analyzed their journey together, the clearer it became that Joan was making these choices for herself. Chock might have been an assertive suitor, but Joan had fallen for him entirely on her own terms. Chock Chapple was not a universally beloved contestant. From the moment he stepped onto the Golden Bachelorette stage, he exuded confidence. He wasn't the type to sit back and let fate take its course. He actively pursued Joan, ensuring he was front and center at every opportunity. While some viewed this as passion, others saw it as overbearing. His fellow contestants certainly had their reservations. During the early weeks, Chock dominated group settings. On a bowling date, he was glued to Joan's side, preventing other contestants from having their chance with her. Many men grew frustrated with his approach. Pascal Ibgui, one of the final 3 men, later described Chock's behavior as borderline stalkerish. Yet Joan never seemed to mind. From the start, Joan reciprocated Chock's affection. He was the first to get a one-on-one date, a coveted milestone in any Bachelor Nation season. The day at Disneyland was filled with laughter, deep conversation, and genuine chemistry. Joan was enchanted. She saw something in Chock that others didn't. That connection remained strong throughout the season. The moment that solidified Joan's commitment came during an unexpected tragedy. Chock's mother passed away during filming. It was a heartbreaking loss, and Chock had to leave. Many assumed his departure would be permanent, but just days later, he returned. Instead of pulling back due to grief, he doubled down on his pursuit of Joan. It wasn't just about winning the competition, it was about winning Joan's heart. And it worked. As the season progressed, it became evident that Joan was drawn to Chock in a way she hadn't been to the other men. Even Guy Gansert, the runner-up, later admitted, "We all knew Joan was into Chock." It was undeniable. When Pascal self-eliminated, it was clear the final choice would come down to Guy and Chock. Ultimately, Joan's heart had already decided. She accepted Chock's proposal during the final rose ceremony, sealing their love story. Bachelor Nation is notorious for its passionate fanbase, and Chock was not exempt from their scrutiny. Many viewers felt he had manipulated the situation, isolating Joan from the other men and controlling the narrative of their love story. His relationship history only fueled these concerns. He had previously been married, then engaged for nearly a decade without ever tying the knot. Some fans saw this as a red flag. Was Chock truly capable of commitment? Adding to the skepticism was Joan's sudden shift in priorities. Before filming, she had made it clear she wouldn't move away from Maryland or spend excessive time away from her family. Yet, post-show, her actions told a different story. Instead of settling into a life close to her children and grandchildren, she and Chock were constantly traveling, splitting time between Kansas, New York City, and various vacation spots. Their recent trip to Cancun sparked a new wave of criticism. Fans questioned why Joan was choosing romantic getaways over family time. While it's easy to blame Chock, the reality is far more nuanced. Joan is not a woman who can be easily swayed. She's intelligent, accomplished, and has spent decades making decisions for herself and her family. If she's choosing to prioritize her relationship at this stage in her life, that's her decision to make. Thanks for watching. If you likes this video, do not forget to subscribe my channel and do not miss any update.